I was asked to come in today to do a presentation on liver health. Through my years of practice, I have probably have started doing clinical for about 10, 15 years. So doing clinical and going and working in the healthcare clinics in different First Nations in Ontario. So I do a lot of traveling as a healer, as a medicine person. I haven't yet come to more or less acknowledge that part of myself yet, but I do go into clinics as the healer. And throughout that work experience, I've come to see a lot of trends that do happen along people's healthcare practices. So a lot of the practices that I refer to is a lot of the experiences that a lot of my clients have gone through. And because there's the liver, the heart, the spleen, the kidneys, and the stomach. So they all have a purpose in the body, but when you're looking at what causes a lot of the symptoms for individuals, we're going to more or less reflect back on to a lot of the healthcare trends that are happening today. Navigating Anishinaabe wisdom healing practices. When I first started doing workshops, a lot of the presentation was on plant medicine, because I do a lot of plants. I study the plants, I work with the plants, I watch them grow seasonally, I learn how they work with the different symptoms in the body. Then I started realizing that they're working with the different symptoms of the body. They started working with the different ailments of the emotions. So working with the different ailments of the emotions, this is what our plants do. And then you started looking at, okay, so now it's starting to work with the different mental capabilities. And what it does it does help to change your perspective. Anishinaabe people many years ago had always practiced the medicines. That was our healthcare system. And that's what I say. Out there is that's our healthcare system. But we fell asleep for a while. So when we had fallen asleep for a while, we didn't go back and we didn't use any of our medicines. And so when we start using our medicines again, it has a different theme because we are in a different space and place now. Living a good life, you'll see that sometimes with certain First Nations, that's their theme, living a good life. So do we know how to live a good life? Do we practice living a good life? Can we help ourselves to live a good life? I have, if you have questions and comments that you'd like to make, by all means, go ahead and ask the questions. You know, when I started doing this work, that was probably about 35 years ago I started doing this work. And doing a lot of the book knowledge, reading like the plant books, listening to the elders talk, and then listening to herbalists. So there's 3 paradigms in listening to what was being taught at that time. The elders, they had all that medicine. And so when they had all that medicine, they talked about how it would help the body heal. And then you look at a lot of the books, and inside a lot of the books, they had the same information as the elders had. And then you look at the herbologists, they all had the same information. So all of that information was there, and it was dealing specific to healing. In my line of work, I found that the plants, they cure the body. That's what the plants do, they cure the body. And so when our plants, our medicines cure the body, they had followed that system. And so when they followed that system, they looked at how the animals, so they learned a lot about the body from the animals. And so when you're looking at the animals, how the blood flows, the bone structure, the organs on the inside of the body, and then the head, the brain, the eyes. And a lot of those organs were foods that were very, I guess you could say, healing. They were very healing at that time. And so they would associate that with certain parts of the body, the eyes, the ears, the tongue, the glands, the liver. And so when they would associate that with the plants, and they would associate that with where the body works, they were able to know and use a lot of those medicines to heal specific organs in the inside of the body. There is filtration systems in your body. The liver is one of the main filtration systems inside the body. The liver filters the bile, so you have your gallbladder. A lot of us don't have gallbladders anymore, right? Take out your gallbladder. And that's the filtration system in the body. So it works with the liver. The gallbladder and the liver, they both work together. So identifying the liver and uses, one of the filtering organs of the body. That's what the liver does, it filters the body. You know, through history, where our people are coming from a place of confusion and a lot of turmoil. So that's the place that our people are coming from. So when we start learning about how the system works, we're able to bring together those medicines out there and bring together what it is that we know when it comes to how the body operates. Your liver is under the cage right side of your abdomen, so your liver's here. A lot of people have, I got sore side. That's your liver. Okay, your liver's. Sometimes it has inflammation on the liver, so it starts to, you start to feel that. It filters the blood from the gastrointestinal tract that assists in digesting the food, medications, and chemicals in the body. That's what the liver does. It's one of the major filtration systems in your body. So if you're eating a lot of unhealthy foods, it takes the liver a long time to filter what's going on in your body system. When it comes to drinking water too, like the bottled water, it takes a long time for that to filter inside the liver too. And then it goes into the bloodstream, and then it goes into the kidneys, the pancreas. So it filters, and that's how that works. It removes toxins and waste products, creating proteins, and can regenerate when damaged. Your liver is the only organ in your body that can regenerate itself. When you feed the liver properly, your liver can regenerate itself. When Creator made Anishinaabe people, he made that so that your liver will be able to generate itself. And because of a lot of the, I'm going to say, historical factors, when they talk about multi-generational implications that have affected our people, so it goes down. We feel those effects. We witness the effects, but it flows down, and so we start to feel that. So the liver problems, when the liver goes untreated, liver damage can progress to liver failure. Do you remember in the 60s, 70s? In the early 60s, that's when the people were allowed to leave the reserves in the 60s. So when the people are allowed to leave the reserves, then they can go into towns. And the places that they ended up going were probably the bars and places like that. So they didn't have to have a piece of paper to let them leave the reserve anymore. And so when they were doing that, life changed, and then life changed really, really fast. And when that life changed really fast, we started to have a lot of health problems. And so those health problems that we started to have, we couldn't place a picture on it, we couldn't give it names at that time because we just didn't understand or know ourselves, eh? So liver damage, it includes alcohol consumption, medications, viral infections. You were just hearing them talking about Hep C, hepatitis. So they were talking about that. And so when you're looking at all those factors that affect the body, we can carry them for a long time. But until we start looking at how we can heal, how we can process, then we're able to we're able to restore that for ourselves. The liver problems, there's also bile production may slow down. Your gallbladder, how many here don't have a gallbladder? I mean, a lot of people don't have gallbladders. Yeah. And so the liver, when it starts to filter, so then it has to go to the gallbladder, and the gallbladder acts like a little drip in your body. So if there's too much fat, if there's too much processed food, it'll have a hard time working. So the gallbladder, you'll end up getting gallstones, and they build up, that's fat build up in your gallbladder. It can't move, so you have a lot of pain. So you end up having a lot of pain in your stomach, and so you end up having to go see your doctor. You also get cirrhosis. It's a severe form of liver scarring. Alcoholism was a big factor at one time in communities. And that was the way people learned to deal with a lot of the emotional upsets that had occurred at that time. This is the historical implications, societal occurrences and influences. When we as Anishinaabe people, we know where we come from. We know that. We already know we're connected to the land. We already know we're connected to our ceremonies. We already know we're connected to our language. And we already know that our relatives have a lot more meaning in our lives. But when they had come in with the residential schools and the day schools and the 60s scoop, and now they're coming in with children who are being displaced from their families. So we're looking at a lot of those factors. And so when they had removed the children from the homes, that became one of the factors for us as the people in seeing and knowing and continuing on with a lot of those teachings that had come in from our elders. Multi-generational, the residential school, day school, 60 schools, out of that came a lot of the abuses, the sexual abuse, the physical violence, the verbal violence, and witnessing the abuse. Now, your body is an amazing organism because it holds. You see, You hear, you speak, and you goes into the mind, it goes into the body. So 5, 6 years old, you see that, it stays in the body and it starts to develop as physical symptoms. When it starts to develop as physical symptoms, we start to have problems with the organs in the body. We start to have problems with the stomach. A lot of people have stomach problems. How many here have stomach problems? Starting from the time you're 7 years old and it goes all the way up, stomach problems. And this is where a lot of times anxiety, nervousness happens, is in the stomach. So when you're eating, it goes inside the stomach. And because of the residential schools, our people didn't get enough proper nutrients. We didn't get enough nutrients. We didn't get the proper vitamins. A, B, C, D, B12. We didn't get enough of those vitamins because they didn't feed the kids any good food at that time. So they couldn't build up and couldn't support their body system. And kids at that age, they grow up with a lot of malnutrition. And so when the body is malnutrition, so are the organs and so are the emotions on the inside of the body. When we do look at our medicine wheel teachings, our medicine wheel teachings are really important. And those medicine wheel teachings, they help us to recognize where we are on our path. And in those medicine wheel teachings, when they talk about the mind, the body, the emotions, and the spirit. Anishinaabe people have strong spirits. I remember a lot of times when I was working with one of my uncles, and he would always say, Anishinaabe people are strong people, he says, because we never left our land. And then that was the major connection, was the land. And he said, because we never left our land, he says, we still have that connection. And so when the Europeans had come over, he said, they left their land, so they don't have that connection that we have. And in that connection, we have the language, we have our pharmacy that's out there, and we have our relations. So those are the most important aspect that defines who we are. Does genetics play a role in the implications? Yeah, it does. Genetically, it will help. It will give you a notification. Let's say when you go see the doctor and they do the blood work and they do everything that needs to be done so that you're looking at overall health of the body. Then we find out, okay, I have this, I have diabetes. My dad had diabetes. His dad had diabetes. So it's filtering down and it becomes that multi-generational process. Behavioral implications. Do we even know what was normal? If we lived in a home where it wasn't normal, we thought that was normal, but it wasn't. Then we realize, oh, wow, it's not normal. So we start changing, we start making a lot of those changes. Emotional despondencies, because when they left the schools, so they missed out on family, they missed out on the nurturing, they missed out on what their roles and their responsibilities were. And we've seen a lot of that with the matriarchal, with the grandmothers. We've seen a lot of that matriarchal roles. And we understood that, but yet at the same time, trying to put that into our society. Loss of developmental stages. There are 4 developmental stages: the child, the youth, the adult, and the elder. Those are the 4 developmental stages. But in our teachings as Anishinaabe people, we go through those 7 stages. Our life changes every 7 years. The body goes through a change. The emotions, everything goes through a change every 7 years. That's why ceremony was important. Every 7 years, ceremony was important. 0 to 7, from the time they were born, 0, they had a ceremony for that child. They had the naming ceremony, they had the burial of the placenta, they had those ceremonies. Then 7, they would take their belly cord, they would go and bury it in the land, and they would have another ceremony, a naming ceremony, so that they're slowly developing and they're finding themselves. That's how our relatives helped the young child, the young people, to find themselves. And then when they turned 14, how many had teenage years where it was just really traumatic? 14 years old. That's when life in itself begins as an adult. Especially for the young girls. They had troubles with their cycle. They didn't understand how all this worked. That they had anxiety. That's where everything would start. Same thing with the young boys. Everything started at that age, and then they would go on every 7 years. Spiritually, we had a hard time spiritually because of the influences of the church. So because the church came in with the residential schools, so spiritually we would have a hard time. We would have a hard time trying to fit in. This is all a bit of historical, but it gets better after, okay? It does get better after, because there's cures. Through my work as the healer, there is a lot of cures in place. But because we have to understand where we come from. Prior to the arrival of the European, we had all our life. We had our medicines, we had our society, we had our roles. But in our prophecies, we had to go through this. We had to try to live in 2 worlds. Because we were trying to live in 2 worlds. Our world and then the non-native world. So we're trying to live in 2 worlds. And in trying to live in those 2 worlds, it was difficult. Because when we came over here, we tried to be like everybody else. And then we realized, oh my God, it's not working. So we had to come back over here. And so when we come back over here, we have to try to figure out what is it that works. And we already know what works because the bloodline speaks louder. That comes in through our bloodline. And that's that wisdom. I always say your bloodline is your wisdom. And that's why I call this the wisdom teachings. Because it comes through your bloodline. That's who we are as Anishinaabe people. That's our wisdom that defines us and that separates us, because we are those people. We are that people. Okay, there is an emotional response with any organ in the body, the heart. A lot of people are having heart problems. So the emotional response with the heart is heartache, broken heart. So we're having a lot of young men, a lot of young people dying of heart failure, heart disease. So this has to do with the heart. And then the liver. The emotional response with the liver is the anger. There is a lot of injustices. Either we saw it or we felt it. So that's where that comes in from. And identifying the signs, fear related to diagnosis, anger, trying to manage liver problems. When we're trying to manage our health, we do have a really hard time. And so when we're trying to manage our health, Sometimes we have to reach out to maybe 4 or 5 other helpers to help us to manage our health. And that's okay, because that's how we become healthy ourselves. Sadness, changes in lifestyle, financial and well-being, guilt behaviors that have caused the disease. Liver is a disease. And it causes you to go through a lot of these emotions. You may not display it in front of a lot of people, but it's there. I know I've been through that myself. So I do understand how that works. Depression and anxiety. When we eat, the first place that the food goes is down your esophagus, and it goes inside your stomach. And sometimes the stomach cannot assimilate, cannot digest. Either we have acid refluxes, or the food goes right through you. So the first place that it goes is the stomach. And so when it's going into the stomach, there's medicines that work inside the stomach, and then mood swings. All this is because of the liver. That liver, holy cow. You know, when you start to understand the process of the liver, diabetes, when I first started learning about diabetes was dealing with the blood. But now we're knowing that diabetes deals with the heart, and diabetes deals with the liver, okay? Liver and sight, that goes together. So when you start cleaning your liver, it starts to clean out a lot of the organs on the inside of the body, because that's its job, it's the filtration. That's what it does. It filters whatever you eat that is not good. It filters. And then when we were growing up in the 60s, the food that was provided to the Anishinaabe people at that time was lard, flour, salt, and sugar, right? And then that's what we had to do, that's what we had to cook with, that we had to make do with that food. And so when we made do with that food, we didn't realize what it would do to the body. And when we didn't realize what it was going to do to the body, we had to look for medicines that would counteract that. And we did have medicines that would counteract that, and that would heal the liver, and that would heal the heart, that would heal the stomach, the spleen, and the pancreas. So this is what our medicines would do. Monitoring your eating habits. When I had said earlier when we had started eating, the 4 groups. So monitoring the eating habits. When our people seasonally went through the seasons, they would always prepare their body for the seasons. The fall, the winter, and the spring. The fall and the spring were the 2 seasons that they would prepare their body for change. In the springtime, they would take the medicines that would help to take out a lot of the toxins out of the body. In the fall time, they would take the medicines that would boost up the immune system, because they were getting ready for the winter. Following seasonal practices, understanding the health implications that have generated from the 1960s, 70s, and 80s. That was back there. We have become more educated now, so we're becoming more knowledgeable in how our lifestyle is affecting who we are, because it's our lifestyle that has that effect on us. Initiating wisdom practices. As I said before, because we're Anishinaabe, that's our wisdom practices that we already have inside. It comes in through our bloodline. It's already there. We already carry that. So I use the term specialized services. We cannot define that in the context of Western society. So we have to identify it in our context as to who we are as Anishinaabe people. So in identifying that particular wisdom practices as specialized services, that's what we offer, because we have our plants, we have our medicines out there, that's our pharmacy out there. So that's our specialized services. We have our ceremonies with our pipes, those stones. We have our ceremonies when they connect that pipe together, the wood and the stone, and when they connect that together, or when they're making their sacred tobacco, and they're offering that tobacco for a good journey, or they're offering that tobacco to the waters. So specialized services are our medicine people, our alternative practice, our healers, and our seers. You know, we had them growing up, and when they were coming up, our elders in our communities, they knew which ones were going to be the medicine people. They knew which ones were going to be the seers. And so they spent a lot of time with them, training them, because that was the health of their community, was those medicine people, was their seers. That was the help of their community, because they would prophesize when things were going to come. And the story, my dad, he would always tell me this story. He says, you know, he says, when I was growing up, he says, my dad would go sit outside at just before it was getting dark. He says, and my mother would tell him, don't go and talk to him, don't go and bother him. So I wouldn't go and talk to him, I wouldn't go and bother him, he says, because I was watching and I was waiting. And then he would come in about an hour later, and that's his dad. And his dad would sit there, and she would bring him a cup of tea, and then he would tell her, this is what's coming. Because he saw it in the stars. He was looking at the stars, and he was reading what was coming, and that's what the spirits were telling him. And then they were telling him, this is what's coming in the future. You may not be here to recognize it, but this is what's coming in the future. And some of the things my dad is telling me at that time, it's happening now. It's a reciprocal relationship between Western healthcare and First Nations healthcare practices. We have our practices of smudging. We have our practices of using the pipe. Those are our practices. We have our practices of offering tobacco. Western healthcare, they have their practices. So when we go for blood work, they tell you this is what the normalcy is, and if your blood levels are too high, this is what they can tell you about your liver. If your liver is not generating, not working properly, this is what they can tell you about your heart. And the majority of us, we do go see the doctors, go for the blood work, and so we sit and then we wait, and they tell us this is what's the symptoms of the body. So they tell us the symptoms of the body. Plant-based remedies. In my line of work in prescribing remedies, is that a cure? The plants? Yeah, it is. Yeah. Yeah. When I come here to Wiki and I help them make medicine here too, right? And I really enjoy that, because I learned so much, and then we exchange the medicines. And so the medicine that they make and they hand it out, it cures what's ailing the body. And when it cures what's ailing the body, it's curing the liver, it's curing the heart, it's curing the stomach. But what it does, it promotes that spiritual development in ourselves. And how it promotes that spiritual development, because we end up believing in that medicine. We end up believing because that's our history, that's where that came from, that's that long line that has come down. Spiritual development. Practicing ritual to attain personal connection to Creator, creation, and others. You know, I would say when we come here from the spirit world, we come here to have a human experience. Creator didn't give us a book. He didn't say, here's a book so you can learn how to be a human being. So we had to have these human experiences. So when we're having those human experiences, we find a way that helps us inside. And my uncle, when I first started learning from my uncle, he would always tell me, use your tobacco. That's what my uncle always told me. Those were his words when I first started learning with him and practicing with him. He would say, use your tobacco. All the time he would say, use your sama. Offer your sama if you're looking for answers. So because I didn't have any teachers in Misagi, and people thought I was crazy, I would go out there and I would use my tobacco. And if I was looking for certain medicines, I would just go put my tobacco out for 4 days. That's where the number 4 comes into place. So I would put it out there for 4 days. And after 4 days, I would find that plant. And so I would take my book, because I didn't have a teacher, I would take my book with me, and I would put it up against the plant, and that would be what I was looking for. So that relationship, so when you're looking at that relationship, that's that spiritual development. So when we're offering that tobacco, and a lot of times when people come and they give me tobacco, and I'll ask them, do you use tobacco? Because it's not an everyday occurrence. Take that tobacco and go and put it out on the land. Take that tobacco and just give thanks. Give thanks for the life, give thanks for where you're at, and give thanks to the Creator. That's that spiritual acknowledgement. Understanding the historical impact of the negative European colonization practices. When the Europeans come over, when they come over across, they brought with them a lot of their practices. And so we tried to fit in to that world. And so when we were trying to fit into that world, we had a really hard time, especially for the women. Our women had a really hard time. And when our women started having a hard time, they lost that role, they lost who they were. And so when women started to lose themselves in trying to fit into a society that wasn't theirs, then they started to pull back. And that's when women started, coming up with the songs and starting to become resilient, using the language, teaching the ceremonies. So they started to get stronger and become stronger. That's that pinnacle in life where the women started to make those changes. So we had to look at a lot of what was there. And they say Anishinaabe people are resilient people. Yeah, we're very resilient people. We can come back from nothing. Okay. Practicing wisdom teachings. Seasonal changes, we go through the seasons, right? Every June 21st to September 21st to December 21st to March 21st. Those are those announcements of the seasonal changes that are going to happen. So when we're following those seasonal changes, our body goes through a lot of changes at that time, even during the full moon. The full moon, it pulls the water, right? Sometimes your body swells up during the full moon. That's how connected we are to the earth. Our body will swell up sometimes during the full moon. And then when that happens, oh, okay, well, I better go see doctor because I'm not feeling too good. Then you say, well, what time is it? When is it? It's full moon. Oh, okay. But it's realizing that that's how that works. We are so connected to the earth that we pick up on all those energies. How many here is picking up on the energies of the earth now? Yeah. What the heck's going on? I feel so out of balance. Acknowledging self and learning how to respond to others differently. You know what I said was normal back there in the 60s, 70s? It's not normal now. We're starting to realize that. My life back there wasn't normal. That was not normal. So we're trying to figure out what is normal. So when we start going back and praying for ourselves and praying for our relatives, then we start to make that change, and then we start to see, okay, this is what is normal. This is how this works. Acknowledging self and learning how to respond to others. Okay, I said that already. Personal reflections. You know when they did fasting a long time ago, when they would go out for 4 days, 7 days, when they would take that time in the springtime and in the fall time, and they went out fasting, that was their time to do a lot of self-reflecting. That was that time that the grandmothers and the grandfathers would come and give them the teachings on how to live a good life. Those were those teachings that had come in to help people learn how to live a good life. Remedies as needed, spiritual direction as needed, and doctor's visits as needed. So we're taking care of our health. So when we start taking care of our health, we start to be present in everything that we do. These are remedies here, okay? You can take pictures if you want. These are remedies here that work. I have used these remedies and I have prescribed these remedies. And it tells you what they're used for. Now is the best time to be out there picking medicine. Watch out for the ticks though. Oh my goodness, those ticks are all over the place. So these plant-based remedies. It took me probably quite a while just to learn how to pick the medicines and how to work with medicines. Some people make oxygen. You've all heard of oxygen. Some people make the Unceded. You heard of the Unceded. I'd like to share a story with you regarding that Unceded. That was probably one of the medicines used to heal the liver. Okay? And there's probably not a lot of people here in your community that make it. Go sit with those ones who make that medicine. This instructor had come to see me and she had liver problems really, really bad. And the doctor had said, there's nothing, you can't come back from it. So I gave her a jar of that Unceded, that medicine, and I told her, drink it all the time. And she did. 2 months, 3 months, she come back and she saw me, and it had healed the liver. Remember, the liver regenerates itself. So it had healed her liver. So she didn't have to go for any other visits with the doctor. Come and see me every 6 months. So that's when you're maintaining your health, is when you go see the doctor every 6 months. So she ended up going back and living a good life. She made a lot of the changes, the spiritual development, so she uses her tobacco and she puts that down to give thanks for her life. Milk thistle, dandelion root, mint leaves, and red raspberry leaves. Medicine has I'm going to say, it works at different organs on the inside of the body. So in this remedy, there's a main medicine and there's helper medicines. So in this remedy, the main medicine would be the mint. The mint leaves would be the main medicine. All the other, the milk thistle, the burdock, dandelion leaves, and the red raspberry leaves, those would be the helpers to the mint leaves. If you know your medicines, you know how strong that they are. Go ahead.
Or the mint leaves, could mint tea work as well?
Yeah. Yep. Combinations, they're all mixed together in a remedy. So it becomes a combination, it becomes a remedy. And when you're looking at the main medicine is more than the other helper medicines, and that's how that works. The main medicine is the boss, and the other ones they help out, but they go to specific areas in the body, the stomach, the heart, the blood. This is how that works. Dandelion root and burdock root. I've used that a lot when it comes to prescribing those remedies for men, especially the men. And in prescribing these medicines for the men, this is what will help the men to work through a lot of those physical symptoms. And that's what it is, a lot of the physical symptoms. Our medicines, they help with the physical symptoms and they cure the body. Duration time, because we're not used to drinking that medicine, nor are we used to making it. So duration time is usually, first you start off at 7 days, then you go for 1 month, and then you can go for 2 months. Chronic ailments, cirrhosis of the liver, that's hardening of the liver too, right? So it'll start to heal and clean off. You know, a lot of times, medicine people, they do what they call the doctoring. And the doctoring is when they ask the spirits to come in and heal and do the doctoring. That's why we have specialized services. Not a lot of our medicine people are trained now to do the doctoring. Chaga, we know what chaga is, eh? Yay, everybody drinks chaga now.
Chocolate.
All the time, yeah. And then we have black birch and yellow birch. Black birch, my uncle, he passed away last year, this year in February. But black birch was his medicine. And how he used that medicine, he would make his tea and he would send out big jugs of that medicine. That's that black birch. We also know it as pitcherry bark. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes, I have a question. So who can be the medicine man or any other process to be a medicine man?
When it comes to the medicine people in our community, a lot of them are born with gifts. And these ones that have the gifts, they're seers, and they can see spirits. Sometimes they hear the spirits talking to them, even when they're small. Like they do things out of character. And when the elders would watch those young kids, they would see, oh, okay, that one is different. So they would start training them to be doctors. They started training them at that age. Because when you're doing spiritual talk, how many people here do spiritual talk? when you start doing spiritual talk,
Is that where you just talk to yourself? And
no, you can talk to other people, like you and I, we can sit and talk, and I can say, well, what's your dreams? Tell me what they're all about. You know, what is bothering you, what's negative and what's positive. When my uncle would say, we gotta sit down and talk medicine, and that was the plants, and that was the doctrine. And so when we talked like that, doing the spirit talk, we would look for those ones that they could see the spirits, and they can hear them. And you know what, there's a lot of us that are probably like that, but we just didn't have anybody to teach us. My aunt, she would say, you have a gift. When you're in the spirit world in our teachings, you come here, and when you're up there with the Creator and the grandfathers and the grandmothers, and you're sitting there and you're talking to them, and they say, okay, well, you're going to go around and you're going to do this work. You're going to be one of the main healers. And you're going to help the people get rid of what is good. Sorry, they said that wrong. Get rid of what is bad and learn what is good. You know, and these are some of the teachings that we don't remember. When the Creator made creation, He made some negative spirits going around, eh? Do you remember any of those stories? Yeah, they're I don't know what they were called, wendigos or whatever, and then they'd fly around all, and they'd be bad spirits. And the people would have to watch for them. You can't come here. And they would have to know how to get rid of them. And that there were certain medicines that you can use that will get rid of them. So when it started to come into the people, come on the land, come around the people, it started to have that effect. What does drugs and alcohol do? Yeah.
Lights your spirit.
Yeah. So though there are those that are gifted, that hear and that see, and they say we're going to take them and we're going to give them medication so that they don't have to deal with that. And those are the medicine people. And sometimes what happens, it gets too much for them, that they end up committing suicide. That's where, when we sit down now and we start talking medicine, so we're able to recognize that, because our people back there knew that. They understood that. And they were there to instruct and tell the warriors to protect our people. So my uncle, he used the black birch, and he used it for cancer, and it healed a lot of cancer when people would come and see him. Same thing with the yellow birch, so you can use the two of them together. Establishing a framework for self-care. Know what is going on, what is going into your body. Do we know what it is that we eat? Do you remember the 4 foods that gave to the people during residential schools? The unhealthiest food?
Flour, sugar, lard, and
Yeah, salt. Yeah, it had a really bad impact on our people because there was no nutritional value. Understanding how your body system works. When you start going with the full moon, go with the full moon. Drink your medicines during the full moon, because that's when all that water is in your body. You're going to flush it out. And the full moon, how many days for the full moon?
every 28 days.
Yeah, every 28 days. But how many days does the full moon stay with us? Yeah, 4 days. You know, Creator made the 4 directions. And that 4 directions is always important to us, because when one direction is out of practice, it really has an effect on us. So we pray to those 4 directions. And when Creator made medicines, He made 4 medicines. But we have to know which one is the medicine, and all the other ones are the helper medicines. And that's how that works. Cultivating practices that initiate and promote a healthy, lifelong training skill. It took me 30 years to train myself to be able to have this skill to come out here and talk to you people. So this is a skill that I've developed. And you know, when I first started, I would have people, I said, well, I'm never going to see them again. So developing that skill, and you know what? Being comfortable with your own personal spiritual practices. If you don't want to let people know that you smudge at home or that you offer tobacco, that's a personal skill that you develop. So when you start relying on that personal skill of development, what it does, it brings you spiritual confidence. It gives you that spiritual confidence that you're looking for. And that's why we come here, is to establish and to build that relationship with the Creator, creation, and others. Okay, every 6 months, seek out medical attention for self-care and regulate internal practices of the heart. Our spirits are always good. We come here, we're born with really good spirits because we come from the spirit world. So when we come here, we have to have a life experience. We have to deal with emotions that sometimes we don't even know how to deal with them because they could be overbearing. Then we have to deal with behaviors that we witness as children, that we witness as adults, that we witness as elders. So we have to deal with those behaviors. And then we have to deal with our own health symptoms. Pain management is probably one of the main symptoms that our people are going through. Could be pain in the emotions, could be pain in the behaviors, and it could be pain in the body. When you start connecting all of that together and you start to realize, holy crap, I've been carrying all this for the rest of my life, I don't want to carry it no more. So you start using your medicines, and you start developing a skill for yourself that gives you yourself confidence. It's entirely up to you that you start building that and you start enhancing that skill, confidence for yourself. Any questions? Okay, go ahead.
I'm just curious, has anyone ever came to you and was told that they had hepatitis C, they were tested in the community, it was confirmed they had an actual viral load, and they wanted an alternative treatment to the Western medicine, so they came to you, and you guided them through a treatment course of a product, and they actually got cured, they went for another test, and the virus was gone.
Yep.
That's amazing.
You know, when you're working with Western medicine, the doctors, they can assess the level of where it's at.
Well, I
Okay.
understand that. I understand the level of scarring on the tissue.
Yeah.
I just, clinically, when you say you cure something, you know what I mean, that's a strong statement.
Yeah, it is.
It means that there was a virus in the
Yeah.
liver, that was never gonna go away.
Yeah.
And you treated them
Yeah.
for your culture,
Yeah.
and now it's gone.
Yeah.
That's an incredible.
Yeah, that is an incredible statement that I'm making, yeah.
That's all Tylenol here around, they got the rest of the house.
Yeah.
But you know what though too, Western medicine has to work with our medicine, so we have to be able to sit down and talk at the table together. Okay? You know, I'm going to share a story with you, and it's a true story. my body went septic. So I had a heart attack, I had every disease possible. So the doctors didn't know the quality of life that I would have. So I started drinking my medicine, started doing the vitamins, started just drinking water. Medicine, vitamins, water. I stayed off the carbohydrates, no sugar. And I practiced a lot of my spiritual practices. I overcame everything that had happened to my body. So it healed my body. So looking at it from that perspective, when you are walking this path, you develop what is there for yourself. But it's what you believe in too. And when you have that personal relationship, when you have that personal belief, you are open to any form of healing that comes your way. So, but I'm going to share with you one of the medicines that I did use. Because I still go back to the doctors and they check through blood work and they do the cheap scans. Okay, Eisten, it's normal, you're back to normal. We couldn't even tell if you were sick. So one of the medicines, and I would, how would you say that? I would drink it every 2 weeks. Because I went into, because of where my body was at, I went into hibernation for 2 weeks, for 5 months. I didn't go out and talk to nobody. Just go buy my food, go home, drink my medications, take my vitamins. And I did that for 5 months. Didn't talk to nobody. But I practiced a lot of the spiritual work and praying, smudging, because I'm a pipe carrier, I smoke my pipe. So I did all that. But the medicine combination that I had used, and that's what I believe that had helped me to heal the organs inside my body. And that was casters. Okay, the beaver casters. I would go around and I would look for them. Oh, I need to see a trapper. I need to have those casters. But when I started drinking them, I could feel the healing effects on the inside of my body. I could actually feel that. And I'm thinking, holy cow, and I would write it all down. So I have a journal of my work, of what I was going through. I would write it all down, what I was experiencing. And I thought, oh my God, I don't know if anybody could understand. Because you're coming from, I was coming from death. And coming from death and making that transition. And to be able to say, yeah, I had a heart attack, the left side of my heart, it ballooned out. My kidneys failed, I was on dialysis. So I was in dialysis because my kidneys, and I had a bag. And my bag, it was an ileostomy. So what I drank, what I ate, it went right through me. So I wasn't gaining any weight. I was at 72 pounds. And I stayed at 78. I didn't go over 78. So I went through rehab. And when I went to rehab, I had to do all kinds of exercise. This is the first time I'm telling my story. Okay? Huh? Yeah, this is probably the first time I'm really actually going into detail, into telling my story, because recovery is there. And that's what my doctors, they tell me that. Because I would take my medicine in the hospital, and I would have jars of medicine on my table, and I would just drink it. Because they couldn't bring down my kidney, they call them creatinine levels, because they couldn't bring down my creatinine levels. So I told my daughter, go home, make me this medicine and bring it in, and that's what I drank. And I just told the doctors I cannot, I'm only taking your medicine for 7 days or 2 weeks. And they say you have to take it all the time for the rest of your life. I don't take no prescription medication. I just drink my medicine. And that's what I do. Any other questions? Thank you. Any questions?